Well, hello, hello, hello. It's your girl, Sean LeRae, and I am back with you know what? It's Boss Talk. That's bold, one of a kind, sensational superstars, and that is each and every one of you. So, welcome back. It's Wednesday. Y'all know that's Hump Day, and you also know that that is Wellness Wednesday. Now, I have had a beautiful Wednesday, but I must say it has been hectic. I had a photo shoot today, just like a supermodel, with my fiance. It's a little late to call them engagement photos, so I am calling them post engagement, pre wedding photos. Y'all, we are almost 30 days out. Today makes 32 days from the day that I am going to become Mrs. William Kirby Seals. And I'm excited, but I must tell you that I thought I had a little bit more time, and I don't. But y'all know what time it is, so jam to my theme song with me. Here it comes. Good evening. It's Sean LeRae, and you're back with Boss Talk. Y'all know that's bold, one of a kind, sensational superstars, and that is every one of you. We have a great show lined up for you tonight. So go and tell somebody, put that out there, send it to them, tell them to like, comment, subscribe, and share. Hit the little bell to see you alerted when we go live. Yes, thank you for jamming it out with me. So let's see who's in the house. My sweetheart is in the house. Mr. William Kirby Seals. He says, hello, Miss Boss Talk LA. Of course, that's me. Soon to be Mrs. You know what. And your feet are freezing. You are hilarious. So that's an inside joke, y'all. He's trying to tell me that he's getting cold feet. About this wedding coming up so quick and so fast. He's not, but you know how it is. So y'all, it is Wellness Wednesday. And like I said, I've had a hectic day. And so I just want to take a few minutes to bring in some peace. So why don't y'all do that with me, and let's breathe a little bit. Let's take in 4 deep breaths. I want you to hold it to the count of 4 and then release to the count of 4. So are you ready? And remember, these are belly breaths. So as you breathe in, expand your belly like a balloon. And as you exhale, let it come in. All right, here we go. Ready? And let's do it again. Going again. Let's breathe in and hold it. And as you release it, let out anything that does not serve you on this fine, beautiful day. Yes, indeed. Thank you. Thank you for doing that with me. It's always good to, whenever you're feeling any kind of stress, any kind of angst, energy, when you need an energy shift, it's always good to allow yourself to breathe. You'd be surprised. The very thing that is so simple that we do it without even thinking about it. And have you ever tried to consciously not breathe? You can't do it because your body is set up to breathe. So is something as simple as breathing has benefits like you would never believe in helping you to regulate your emotions and helping you to clear your mind and all of those things. And because when your emotions are going, blah, then the frontal lobe part of your brain right up here, this is where decisions are made, reasoning happens, logic happens, all of that, it goes offline. So this is going like this is shut down. Then this calms down as you breathe, and this opens up. So the brain is an amazing, amazing thing. And it's simple, but we forget that we actually can help control it. And so, you know that we do themes around here. So this is June 26th. And this is the very end of June, and it is the end of Men's Health Month. So I've had the distinct honor and pleasure to host a forum for men who were able to talk about mental health, about the impact of nutrition on mental health, on wealth, and also fitness and the importance of moving your body. And women talk about these things all the time. But what I have noticed, and what was actually confirmed in that meeting, is that it's not something that men talk about, their wellness or the things that bother them or the things that are going on in their minds, anxiety, depression, disappointment, and all of those things can actually lead to grief. Now, we often think of grief, we think of somebody died, but grief has so many other components to it. You can grieve the loss of a job. You can grieve the loss of a relationship, a friendship. You can grieve the loss of life as you knew it. So if there are things that are changing in your lives, for whatever reason, they can be disconcerting. And in those cases, we have to grieve that loss. And a lot of times we try to move on to the next thing without actually taking a break and a moment and grieving. And grieving is essentially acknowledging and walking through whatever feelings, whatever thoughts, whatever shifts are happening in our lives. And so I have the honor and pleasure of being the clinical director at the San Fernando Valley Counseling Center. And there we work with trainees, therapist trainees. Those are trainees, the trainees are therapists who are still in school and who have to get a certain amount of hours to be able to graduate. And it's their first taste of therapy, of actually sitting in front of clients and doing the therapy thing. So we have a cohort of therapists who have just completed and are on their way out as they complete their hours and get their continue to see their clients. And then July 9th, we have a group coming in. And so it's a very exciting time around the center. And I'm really proud of these two gentlemen who are going to be my guests tonight because they took it upon themselves to create a grief group for men. And as I said before, it's not something that men often talk about. So we're going to have a chat with them, find out why they even want to be therapists in the first place, what it's like to be a male in the field, because I say they're like unicorns. And also just find out what made them want to do this group in the first place and what they expect to get out of it. And you will have the opportunity to find out how you can learn, how you can join the group. Ladies, if you're out there and you think your man might need this group, take down these emails a little bit later and definitely see if you can get that set up. So y'all, let's see who's out here before we go. Let's see. What is Mr. Seals saying? Hey, baby, it feels like I'm walking through snow. My feet are freezing. LOL. That ain't funny. He says, but on the real, people, I'm madly in love with this beautiful lady. Now let's get back to the show. Yes, let's get back to our programming. Mwah. So I want to bring these gentlemen on so we have some time to get to know them and chat with them. So before I do that, I'm going to just tell you a little bit about them. So tonight we have Justin Hakim and John Goodhue. Now, Justin is currently pursuing a master's in clinical psychology with a focus on spiritual and depth psychology. He's passionate about exploring the intersection of spirituality, consciousness, and mental health. So, without another word from me, Boss Talkers, please welcome on Justin Hakim. Hey there, Justin.
Hi, Sean Ray. Happy to be here.
Good to have you. Good to have you. And I want to hear a little bit more about your field of study in just a moment, but I want to get John on with you. So, John Goodhue is a musician, poet, and educator currently training for licensure as an MFT in the state of California. And that's marriage family therapist out there, y'all. So, without another word from me, Boss Talkers, please welcome to Boss Talk, John Goodhue.
Hi, hey Sean Larry, Justin.
Welcome. Good to have you.
Great to be here.
Absolutely. So I want to find out what brought you guys into the field. Like, what made you decide that you wanted to pursue a master's in counseling? So, Justin, you can go ahead and go first.
Yeah. What a great question. Well, so it really started with in 2020. I was in the travel industry for a few years prior to that. And I was really pursuing my passion for travel. It was something I was very interested in. Once COVID hit, it was obviously a very tough time for everybody. But I was kind of forced to decide what I want to do with the rest of my life, because the travel industry was just not a fun place to be in. I had moved back home to Los Angeles. I was living in Boston at the time. And during COVID, I actually underwent this kind of healing journey that I really didn't expect myself to go on. It was very spiritual in nature, which is one of the reasons I am pursuing a concentration in spiritual and depth psychology. And I wouldn't say I was really spiritual prior to that experience, but I was really called to exploring a lot of the emotional pain that I had carried for so much of my life that I was oblivious to in many ways. And I basically went on this 2-year long journey where I was just exploring this pain, exploring my shadow, if that's a term you're familiar with, and just really healing these parts of me that were really in pain. And I came out of that journey really just wanting to help other people. And one of the first things I did was pursuing life coaching. And I kind of took that route for a little bit. And after working with some clients, it became clear that I was really working with people's trauma. I was working with people's emotional pain, which almost every conversation led down to the trauma. It was pretty crazy, actually. And I figured this is the path for me. I'm pretty sure I want to be a therapist. It's already what I'm doing. And so far it's been the correct choice, I would say.
Absolutely. I love that. You know, it's funny. I was a life coach years before I even knew what being a therapist was. And when I decided to pursue therapy, I thought back and I was like, oh yeah, this makes sense. Because I'm also that person on the elevator that if you get on the elevator with me, you take one look at me and you start spilling your guts and tell me your whole life story. By the time I get to the top floor, I know all about you. So I thought it's time to get paid for this stuff. So I love that. And I appreciate the idea that during the pandemic, you had the time to actually sit and think, because I think the pandemic, as you know, probably both have heard the statistics that say that more people went into business and career changes and entrepreneurship than ever before during the pandemic. So I think it says something that though it was a very tragic time for many people, myself included, it was also a time of revelation for so many. Someone's in there. Hey, there's Gigi. She says, I'm here. Welcome back, sis. Thank you. Good to see you. So, John, how about you? What brought you into the field?
Well, COVID was a part of it.
Mm.
Absolutely. It was the catalyst, along with a couple other things, which I can get to. I think my interest in the field really began to kind of crystallize when I was doing grad work previously, and I went to grad school to write poetry, which is not a particularly strong vocational choice, but it was a very important humanistic choice. Um, and I think as I was exiting that program and I was feeling a little bereft of a knowing of kind of pathways, career pathways, it kind of sparked for me. Maybe I tried counseling. It seems like this is a logical cousin or a very natural cousin to something like poetry. Um, However, at that time, I was also playing music and I was focusing on trying to be a professional musician. So I kind of deferred. I sort of tamped down that or put it on ice, however you want to put it. And I went and played music for a few years, with pretty extreme dedication. And then COVID hit, and that, similar to kind of Justin's experience in the travel industry, the entertainment industry, music, film, all that came to a crashing halt. Um, so there was a sort of a limbo time where I wasn't really clear what to do, and it was about starkly in that time that my mom got cancer, and she struggled for about a year and a half, and then she passed in April of 2021. And that was I think, more core catalyst that really launched me into wanting to do this work. She had seen it in me and was often urging me to enter this field. And in some kind of melancholic but beautiful way, her departure is what helped me arrive here. So, um, yeah.
I think you may be muted, Sean Ray.
I think, yeah, you might be.
There we go. Okay.
There we go. Okay.
Yeah. So William says, "Hey, babe. Hi. This guy. He's smooth, and he said you're well spoken." That's
Thank
great.
you, William.
So,
It makes sense that he has a master's in poetry.
right. Well, you'll appreciate this. I'm a poet as well.
Wow.
And I do spoken word. I perform it. In fact, I was performing spoken word the day that I met William Kirby Seals.
Did you meet at a reading of sorts, or
Yes,
like a slam something?
yes, we were actually tricked into meeting because we had a mutual best friend, a guy, and we had both known this guy for over 30 years. And when but we never had met one another. And so he kept asking me if I wanted to meet his friend. And I kept saying, no, thank you. And he kept asking William if he wanted to meet me. And he kept saying, no, thank you. So he knew that I love to perform. So he invited me to perform spoken word with him at a Black History Month celebration at the Museum of San Fernando Valley. And he invited William to the show. And so after is where we met. Yeah. So I actually,
That's great.
Yeah.
It's a great place to meet.
Yes. And my bestie, Chantel Denise, was in town this past weekend for my bridal shower from Austin, Texas. And she had a friend who was doing a poetry reading, and it was a book signing for him. He was launching his poetry book. So we went to one on Sunday and I got to perform.
Wow. That's
Yes.
cool. Let me know next time you do.
Yeah, absolutely.
Don't be shy. I'll be there in the audience next time.
All right. They might call you out, so be prepared.
Okay, I'll have something in my back pocket.
That's right. I had mine in my purse, of course. Let's see what else. Gigi says, I love hearing about the start of each journey. Absolutely. So I I'm getting a word from the universe and my producer who's saying that since it's in your back pocket, maybe tonight before we close out, you might want to do a little bit for us. You might want to spit a little something.
Oh boy. Okay. Yeah, it's possible. We could.
Okay,
Let's
okay, I
see.
like
Let's
it.
see how this. Let's see how this unfolds. And if
Let's
there's the
see. Let's just
natural
see.
gap, the natural space, I'll see if I can fill it with a few choice words. How's
All
that
right. I like all of that. I like all of
sound?
that.
Okay. Okay.
Well, you know what I love is that both you and Justin had sort of these revelations during COVID, and for you, it came with the loss of your dear mother, and I'm sorry for that loss for you. It's interesting. I was just telling you all about my loss of my late husband,
Yeah.
and your mother passed the month that I had his
Mhm.
going home service. So yeah, I didn't know we had that in common as well. And so Justin, I want to hear a little bit more about the depth psychology and the spiritual psychology, because when I first started my private practice, I worked out of a house, and it was a house that was sort of an eclectic group of holistic clinicians, and so I met my first spiritual depth psychologist there. And so I'd love to hear what it is about it that worked for you, and what how you kind of bring it out, how you perform, if you will, that kind of psychology.
Yeah, yeah, sure. So yeah, this all ties back to COVID when I was going through this whole personal healing journey. Um, I would also call it a spiritual journey, and I'm careful with my words because I don't like to push spirituality on anyone. But
Mm-hmm.
but for me, that experience was very spiritual in nature, and and I came out of it basically realizing that I am more than my mind. I'm more than my emotions. I'm more than my body. In fact, there's something else deeper than all that I am.
Mm-hmm.
And once I came to that realization, it's you can't undo that. Like there's no going back.
Right.
So I see everything through that lens. Um,
Mm.
and and so for me, again, I don't push that on anybody. If I'm working with a client, I don't necessarily bring it up, but it is the lens that I see things through.
Mm-hmm.
And in many ways, it's also you can take a I don't know, maybe more atheist approach to this, if you will, which is that there is a consciousness behind everything that is still observing everything. And for me, I prefer spirit or awareness. I think there's a more divine element to all of it.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, but uh, but once you get to this place where you can kind of fall back into awareness, where you're not the mind and you're not your emotions, you're not your body. You can start working with those things from a different level. Instead of being in the program, you are working with it from an observer standpoint. You're working outside of the program. Uh,
Mm.
so that was integral for me. That was everything for me, and we can get into grief and loss, but I think it also plays a big role in grief and loss as well.
Mm-hmm. I love that. I love that. I want to hear more about how you marry the two, so to speak. And so this men's grief group. So let's talk first a little bit about how you see um, men and therapy, because I know there's a stigma. There's so many stigmas from different angles around mental health and getting help. And I know in the Black community, it's like a big no-no. There's been a stigma. I'm happy to say that is changing, that is shifting. That there's always been the thing. Part of it was trust, the cultural distrust. Another part of it was we were brought up to believe that what happens in this house is kind of like Vegas. What happens here stays in here.
Mm-hmm.
Don't be telling everybody your business, that kind of thing. And so that's one thing. What do you think the stigma is around men? And either of you can go first on that. I want to hear from you both.
Well, I mean, what comes to mind first, thank you for the question. It's a great question. And what comes to mind first is a quote that maybe we've heard in some different contexts, but the mass of men lead lives of quiet desperation. And the really operative word for me in that sentence is quiet. because desperation, suffering, pain, everyone has them. You know, it's not a biological thing; it's a human thing to feel vulnerability and fragility and moments of weakness. But with men, it has been socialized out of us to even see that um, as a tolerable, acceptable, and beautiful part of ourselves.
Mhm.
You know, um, it's and it's I think it's a really a travesty that uh, that a normal boyhood requires us to disavow certain aspects of ourselves like that.
Mhm.
I think the notion of masculinity as filtered through a patriarchal lens is much actually more about disavowal than acquisition. It's less
Mm.
about what you get, it's less about the traits you have, and more about the traits you don't have. I'm not weak. I'm not womanly. I'm not gentle. I'm not uh, sweet and loving and nurturing. And it's a definition in opposition, and so it's really sort of this negative kind of inversion. And I think it runs through the veins of most westernized men, and we often don't even get the opportunity to question it.
Right.
So um, it makes so much sense that, you know, and then as you well put, there are other cultural factors involved where the Black community has a very understandable historical aversion to certain therapeutic components.
Mhm.
And then so for Black men, it's a double bind. They have that, and they have this notion that to be manly, to be masculine, is to uh, is to kind of deny yourself vulnerability and delude yourself into thinking that having this armor is
Mhm.
somehow going to improve your quality of relational life.
Absolutely. 100% see that. And I really, um, I love what you said about well, there's the piece of vulnerability. This vulnerability is equated to weakness, when in fact it takes such great strength to be vulnerable. And so there is that inversion even there. And I think that men who are able to be vulnerable don't even recognize how attractive that is as in humanness, in humanity. It's just an attractive
Yeah,
trait to have, to be soft enough to speak your truth, whether it be beautiful or the ugly parts, you
yeah.
know. So absolutely. So Justin, let's hear from you on that.
Yeah, yeah. Well, I remember the first time I heard that quote, John. It like sent shivers down my spine. What a powerful quote. And and just to go off what you were saying, Sean Leray, about vulnerability being a strength. Part of my story. See, I grew up with mostly women in the house. I have three sisters, a mom, bunch of cousins, my grandma. My dad's around, but he was working a lot when I was younger. So I was really raised with a lot of women, and and so I was a very nurturing, caring, and sensitive boy ever since I can remember.
Mhm.
Um, and for a long time, I really did not like that. I really hated that, actually, because I thought I wasn't masculine enough, or I wasn't manly enough for society standards. And
Mhm.
um, and so I really went through a lot to hide those parts of me, or really suppress those parts of me, as I'm sure a lot of other men do. And part of the healing process that I went through was to really love these parts of me. Um,
Mhm.
the caring. I am so sensitive, but now I say that with so much pride,
Mhm.
because there's so many good things that come with being a sensitive person,
Right.
and it helps me now in this career. It really helps me be attuned to other people, um,
Mhm.
And so a lot of this, I think, is just really reclaiming who you are, no matter if you're sensitive or not. But especially if you hold traits that society says are not manly enough. And
Mhm.
that was really my learning, was just really just bringing those traits home in a way, and really reclaiming them,
Mhm.
and healing them in a way where I can show up in the world as a sensitive man. Um,
Yes.
and I say it with pride and honor.
Yes. Well, just so you know, Gigi has confirmed, yes, it is attractive. So there you have it. And
Thank you. Thank you.
yes, and Mishka, hello, hello, my friend. Mishka is also a clinician. She's a licensed marriage family therapist, licensed now in California and Maryland, which is where she's living now. And she says sensitivity is a strength, 100%, 100%. And it's so, you've heard jokes, he's the strong, sensitive type. And when women say that, we really mean that in a way that I think a lot of men don't understand, because we have been, sort of what is the word? We've been oh my gosh, my brain just went conditioned. That's the word. We've been conditioned to believe that manliness is equated with brawn and brashness and
Yeah.
all of those things. And those are, I think, the very things that keep men disconnected from what they really do want. I will share with you that I think I mentioned I hosted a panel for the Black Women's Network a couple of Saturdays ago. And on that panel, we had a mental health therapist. Shout out to Marty of Marcel Consulting and Mental Health Services. And we also had William Kirby Seals, who is a nutrition expert and wealth coach. And then we had Larry Goodman, who is an attorney by day and a fitness guru and a tough instructor by night. And so the three of them talked about just, men's health, because again, it is Men's Health Month. Shout out to yeah.
Mhm.
And the gentleman in the audience really started to get involved in the conversation. And one of the things that they brought up was that men don't have an opportunity like this to actually sit and chat and be vulnerable and talk about their true feelings. I mean, they literally talked about everything, including erectile dysfunction, which how that relates to how men eat and the foods that we put into our body, and this whole holistic thing, which is what my jam is. I'm like a holistic practitioner. So I believe in, the things we put in impact what comes out. And so it was just so interesting. A gentleman shared that he had prostate cancer, and as a result of his prostate cancer, excuse me, he had some issues with erectile dysfunction as a result of that, and how he felt so bottled up and couldn't speak about it, and that causes pain. I'm sure that can cause grief. So I think it's really great that you all are doing this group for men around grief, and talk a little bit about, like, what are some of the things that you hope will come out of this?
Mhm.
Yeah.
Well, go ahead, Justin.
Yeah, I'll just say a few. I know John. John is the one that really put this group together, and he asked me to co-facilitate, which was so a lot of this was really John putting together. I want to give him his kudos there. But for me, is uh, coming to a place where you can talk about what's really happening with other men. To me, creating that environment where it's not surface level anymore, although there's room for that, but it's not sports, it's not the
Mhm.
weather, it's what's really going on. What are you feeling? What's the pain that you've been carrying that you haven't talked to anyone else about
Mhm.
because society says that you're not supposed to do that. And coming to a safe place where with other like-minded men to be able to just do that, that to me is the most important thing. And I know John you probably want to talk more about the grief and the loss. But for me, that environment, that holding space, and being able to process and talk about emotions, that's to me is the most important part.
Mm-hmm. Thank you. Go ahead, John.
Yeah, I it's funny because I started this group really kind of, or I conceptualized the beginning of this group really under the spell that it needed to be a grief and loss group. And what I had in mind is that I needed to work with men who had lost a loved one or had a traumatic rupture of attachment. And while this group is absolutely for those men, it's come to me more recently that to be a man in modern society is requires often risking loss every day, because the fragility of masculinity, the fragile nature of these things that we internalize, that we introject. I've heard it put, and I think this was Terry Real who put it this way, that it's a membership like a club, so it can be revoked. And I think it's like, it's just important to understand that grief for anyone, and in this group for men, is really about trying to recapture meaning and purpose and community. And I think, to Justin's point, it's finding a spot for men to try and understand that the work is not for ourselves alone, and that we may often feel like we need to leave our feelings, but that our feelings won't actually ever leave us. And this is ideally going to be a spot for those feelings to be brought in, to be looked at, and to be cared for, and to be considered. And yeah, it's just been interesting to me as I've thought about this more, the way that that grief it can take so many forms, as you put it, really at the beginning of this thing.
I love that. I love that what you said about we can leave our feelings, but they're never going to leave us. And I think that that's really important for people to grasp, because we try to hide them, we try to put them away, and not acknowledge them, and particularly without permission. In most parts of society, men don't have the gift that women have to actually emote and let it out, and to cry, and to feel. And y'all don't know what a good cry will do for your soul, I gotta tell you. Because it's
true.
Really, it's like it's about the truth.
Mm-hmm.
I think the emotions are like a mirror. They are the truth. They're your truth looking back at you.
Yeah.
And if you're able to put that out there and get it off of you, I often say that it's like gas, it's better out than in. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's like, and so to be able to kind of allow the space and the permission, and I think the safe space is the biggest part of this, because men don't want to be laughed at. Nobody wants to be the sensitive guy or the one to share how he or she is really feeling, and how he is really feeling, and that they actually have a sadness or a depressive moment, or any of that. Nobody wants to open that door and be that first one. But like the group that I saw sort of just develop right before my very eyes, it just took one man to start. Well, it took those three men, but they started each bringing up things that were so vulnerable and so truthful that it opened the room to the rest. You know what I mean? And so I think this is going to be an amazing opportunity for men to have that. And I'm so grateful that you guys are bringing this out. I want to see what folks are saying. William Corby says, this is really beautiful about the feminine side of a masculine man. I guess I had embraced that side of me as a child. I wish I could tell some stories but this makes a more godlike man. Yes,
Mm-hmm.
yes. Beautiful. Hello, hello, Ms. Dr. Daphne. Blessings to all. She says, thank you, and back at you, sis. So, Justin, as you kind of joined in it, I think it's a perfect match with the two of you doing this together, both of you being able to access uh, that side of yourselves, which is the honest, the true side,
Mm-hmm.
and you'll be able to influence other men to be able to do that, and I really love that. So Justin, who is the guy that you want to speak to out there right now and say, this is for you? What are you going to tell him?
Yeah, great question. First and foremost, it is a grief and loss group. So if you are facing any kind of grief, and like you said in your intro, it doesn't have to be just death. You can grieve any kind of transition, any stage in life, any kind of loss. So if you're going through that and you're going through that alone, especially, this group could be definitely something that will help you out. If you feel like you've been harboring uh, any kind of emotional pain, um, whether it's been for a long time or just recently, and you need help talking about the pain, and you want to be in a safe place with other men who won't judge you. They won't judge you, and they won't make fun of you, anything like that. But they'll really support you.
Mhm.
Um, that's also that will be perfect for someone like that. Um, and I think just to kind of top it all off is just anyone who maybe is missing that type of masculine support in their life, or maybe the healthy masculine support. I
Hmm.
know that was part of my journey for sure. So yeah, any of those criteria, I would say you'd make a great fit.
All right, good, good. Now, John, let me hear your pitch, and maybe let's with a little bit of a twist. Like, what will men walk away with as they
After. Mm-hmm.
after this? Yes.
Yeah, no, that's a great question. Um, well, I'll preface it by saying that I think this group could be for any man that feels like he's lost some aspect of himself. He's
Mm,
losing some aspect of himself, and is looking to find it, and is hopeful to potentially find it in the context of of being around other men, and can learn how to heal in that space. I think that is, and so my hope is that one of the big takeaways would be to be able to find that, and to perhaps redevelop a sense of self-worth that was there at the beginning, that got hammered out of us through social conditioning, through circumstance, um, and that we might be able to reestablish a emotional connection communally, spiritually, that allows us to understand that self-esteem is something that starts from the inside and goes outward, and it's not the other way around, and that we don't need to have external reflective sources to tell us that we are valuable humans, or that we are this amount of man, or this amount of any other form of identity, which we probably harbor in magnitudes. Sean Leray, you're muted again.
thank you. I'm sorry. As I tried to change earbuds, I got connected again. So I apologize if anybody lost any part of the valuable lesson or uh, nuggets that John was putting forth. I love technology until I don't.
Right.
Sorry about that. But I love what you were saying. Let's see. Dr. Daphne says, "Love this forum. Thank you so much. Mwah. We got to get you on here. Let's book it." And William says, "This is what men need, a place where we could talk and be vulnerable and truthful." Yes, absolutely. And I really love, first of all, I love that as trainees, you are taking the initiative to do something that's a little bit outside the box, and that is going to open up your experience as a therapist, as therapists, because I think, we do all the things we have to do for school, right? You go in and you got to get those hours, you got to, take those specific classes and all of that. But I think this helps you to grasp a bit of what to encompass the whole of what therapy can be. And so it's exciting that we can meet with people one-on-one, and we can sit with them and hold space for them and be their container and all of those things in a one-on-one setting. But the beauty of group dynamic is amazing, and you'll get to see that as you do this. And so that's just going to make you that's going to be like another area that you can branch off into as a therapist once we go through this process of graduating and becoming an associate marriage family therapist, and then on into your licensure. And I love the idea too that you'll get to sort of figure out some niche work, like where you fit in this great big old therapeutic world, So this is really, really great. I love that you all took the initiative to do it and you're running with it. I love that it was your brainchild, John, and that you brought Justin in to have part of the experience with you. It's a beautiful thing.
Thank you.
Is.
Thanks for having us. Yeah, it's really, I'm really glad and grateful that I found the right person to do it with. And it's felt like a long time coming.
That's good. That's good. Dr. Daphne said, let's make it happen. I'm going to call you. We are going to make it happen, sister. And she also says, how do you even begin to persuade an alpha male that he needs to nurture his feminine soul? Ooh.
Wow.
Who wants to take that one first? You both, I want to hear from you both, but go ahead, whoever.
Well, it's interesting because my first thought is that you don't persuade. Persuading, as much as I get that term, it feels like persuading is you're trying to tell something that there's something wrong, that you're doing. I think it's interesting to me because it's sort of like, and you want to invite almost more than persuade, and then at the same time I do understand the alpha male construct is one that is unlikely to go without a fight.
To accept the invitation.
Totally.
Really.
Yeah, exactly. And so there has to be a little bit of that. And I mean, the reality is, I think if you are encouraged, yeah, absolutely.
Yes,
I think to that end, this is what we're doing with this group, is we're encouraging, opening people to come in. And I think if there is someone who sees this and says, hey, maybe I'll try this out, to me, that's an indication that there's already that little opening. There's that aperture, the window's open enough. And perhaps with a little bit of gentle encouragement and modeling and space holding, that we can kind of open that door a little bit wider.
I love that.
And I think that's what at least the role of this grief group will be about.
Good stuff. Justin.
Yeah. I was going to say exactly what John said, which is, I don't think our role is to persuade or force anyone. But if you feel a calling to explore these things, then great. That's really who it's for. But what I will say about the alpha male archetype is, to me, I associate the alpha male with a lot of pain. It doesn't sound, as someone who pursued that for a little bit because I thought that was the way to go. It wasn't fun. It wasn't fun. It hurt. I felt like I had to always be rigid, and I couldn't be vulnerable. And I just wasn't who I really was. And so for me, and this isn't to bash alpha masculinity, but for me, there's a more authentic masculinity that comes with freedom. It feels free inside. It doesn't feel painful inside, and that's the invitation, is to be fully yourself, and be this archetype of the masculine that is loving, and nurturing and still protective. It still has these other characteristics that you might associate with more alpha male, but we're not putting anyone else down. We're bringing others up together in strength, and that's the difference to me. There's so much more freedom and so much more you can do from that place.
I love that. I agree. I agree. Yes. So when does the group start?
So we are hoping to have it start a week from next Tuesday, and that would be on July 9th, at 7 o'clock, from 7
Okay.
to 8:30. It's an hour and a half. We are still sourcing and locating individuals, and if we don't have quite like the minimum that we're hoping for by that date, we'll have to kind of push it back weekly until we do get that.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
Mm-hmm.
but yes, this is part of it. Hopefully, someone may see this, or who knows someone, or is someone who feels like this might be a good fit.
Yes, that's great. So you said 6 is the max?
Six
Six is 6 to 8,
6
because
to
there's
8.
two
Okay.
of us. Eight is totally fine.
Okay.
But we will, if we were to get 5 or 6, which we have a few candidates that we're currently talking with,
Oh, good.
um, uh, then we would, if we had 5 or 6, we would probably start it a week from this following Tuesday.
All right. All right. I love that. Well, gentlemen out there, uh, this is an opportunity for you to explore a side of yourself that you may have never tapped into, and you might just be surprised and happily surprised, and encouraged by what you find on the other side of the masculine energy that has kind of ruled you. And that's not to say, again, like John and Justin said, that that's a bad thing. It's just that there are so many other avenues that you can drive down, and so many other um, sort of nuggets that can be pulled from the fullness of who you are. And I actually, y'all don't know this, but the boss talkers here do. I make up words. And my favorite word that I have made up is called stepping into your who you are-ness. And that's when you're living in your
Hmm.
God-driven purpose, and you're fulfilling every aspect of who you were built and purposed to be. And I think a lot of times we forget that through the pain and the grief and the hurt and the embarrassing parts are some beautiful nuances that deserve to be shown and recognized. So, hey, bestie in the house, bestie in the house. Chantal Denise says, great convo, y'all. This is so needed. Yes, indeed. Yes, indeed. Thank you, sis, for tuning in. Spread the word. And Mishka says the alpha male archetype is a great way to conceptualize. It shows that it is a part of the self, but not all of the self. Ooh, yes, absolutely. Absolutely. I love it, y'all. I love it. So I am so excited, as I said, for you guys to get started on this. And I am confident that it's going to fill up, and we will be starting it on the 9th. And so if you're out there and you know somebody who needs to, yes, Dr. Daphne, who needs to step into their full who you are-ness and explore what grief even looks like, maybe. And listen, like we were talking about, you don't have to have lost someone in the physical form. Maybe you lost a relationship. Maybe you lost a part of yourself and you don't know what it is that you're feeling. It could be that. I know that there have been times when I have felt not in my fullness. And when I am in that space, I'm kind of off. It's almost like you walk with a limp. You know what I mean? Because
Yeah.
something is off in your body and your spirit, in your soul. And so I think that clearing grief is a way to open up the soul and really speak to the fullness of who we were meant to be. So it's getting to be that time, y'all. And
Mhm.
so, guys, I always ask the guests that I have on the show to drop a little nugget that you want to leave the boss talkers with out there. So it doesn't have to be a big old thing. It could be 15 seconds, 20 seconds or so. What would you like to share?
You want
Well,
to go first, John, or should I go?
you go ahead. Go first.
Okay, yeah, I can go. Well, first, I just want to I want to send out that invitation to any man that's curious about this. You don't even have to know for sure that this is something you want to join. Feel free to email us, and we'll have a conversation and see if it's a right fit, and just take it from there. Maybe address anything that you might be nervous about. And you really don't have to have any kind of prior experience with therapy or anything like that. So I guess I just want to sum this up by saying this is really an invitation to anyone who's curious about exploring this, and that's really it. And we can have an open, honest, and easy conversation. It's not going to be anything scary or anything like that.
Love it. Thank you. All right, John, go for it.
I think I'll leave us on the idea that, especially because men are often told what should and shouldn't be an issue for them as a part of their kind of rite of passage into masculinity. It's important to note that these feelings of loss and pain don't disappear because we tell ourselves or others tell us that they should. And the bottom line is simply that that there's no form of grief that's too unimportant or not important enough to be potentially wielded as an opportunity to reconnect with yourself and with others.
I love that. I love it. Thank you. Thank you both. And ladies and gents out there, ladies, share this information with a gentleman who deserves to be here. Fellas, you or someone you know, just keep in mind that when you point to someone else, there's a finger that's pointing right back at you. So maybe it's you. And so you can connect with John Goodhue, MFT trainee, and Justin Hakeem, MFT trainee at San Fernando Valley Counseling Center, and you can email them if you're interested in joining the group at john.g@sfvcc.org and justin.h@sfvcc.org. The men's grief group begins on Tuesday, July 9th from 7 p.m. Pacific Standard Time to 8:30 p.m. Pacific Standard Time, and it's a 10-week commitment, and it's only $20 little dollars. So, and if $20 is difficult for you, just consider it as an investment in you. And so we always want to give ourselves the opportunity to have the best of what we need. And so I want to thank you both for coming on tonight. I really appreciate it. It was fun having you. Gigi says, this is so great, gentlemen, and I tend to agree. So let's give them a big up, y'all. And I am confident that you guys are going to see this fill up really quickly. So thank you both. And stay and jam it out with me. Boss Talkers, y'all know what time it is. It's almost time to go. You don't have to go home, but you got to leave here. So y'all know what to do. Live loved and shalom, y'all. Jam it out with me. This has been Boss Talk. That's bold, one of a kind, sensational superstars. And that's each and every one of you.
One of a kind.
LeRae at www.liveandlovecoaching.com. If you need coaching, if you need therapy, livinglovehealing.org. And you can follow me on Instagram, Living Love Healing, and Dr. Non-Profit, WJD Center, WJD Center.